Joining us now is Chris Moody, former vice president of data strategy at Twitter and currently a partner at Foundry Group. Chris, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So to my ear, it was a very polished, kind of political response from Mark Zuckerberg. He said, I'm sorry, I feel bad. We're going to restrict data access. We're going to hunt down your old data like Horcruxes, even though we might not find all of it. Now, you were the CEO of Nip, which Twitter bought for $134 million, I think it was. And that was all about being able to monetize data. Is this scandal really going to change things for platforms like Facebook, like Twitter, and even alter the market for big data?
Yeah, well, it's going to have to change things for Facebook for sure. I mean, when I look at what Mark said last night, I really thought there were two things. One, he was completely apologetic about the fact that this was Facebook's mistake and completely fell on his sword about that. But the other piece was when he talked about their plans to fix it, I was really surprised that, first of all, they're the right things to do to fix it. But when he talked about how to fix it, he was talking about things that, for example, in Twitter's case, have been in place since 2010. So I was surprised to see that. For example, talking about, hey, we're going to actually take a look now and see what these companies who are sucking down huge amounts of data are doing with it. Well, Twitter started doing that in 2010 when they started making data available, heavily vetting not only initially what companies were doing, but ongoing auditing and monitoring. So I think it speaks to the fact that the problem was systemic, and and it's going to take a pretty big shift on their part to change.
Now, Chris, I know that Zuckerberg has these plans in place, but I mean, is this an impossible task for him? He wants to go back and see who has this user data. Can he realistically do this? Can he essentially put the genie back in the bottle?
No, I think there's two things again. I think there's can he change the process going forward around protecting user data? Absolutely. Not easy. We're talking about a massive effort, and I think it'll take years to get done. But the problem with the data that they were sharing, this private data, is it's valuable over time, right? Your email address and your phone number and some of this data, it's valuable 5 years after you've given it up. And that data is out there, and lots of people have it, and there's really no way to pull it back. It was one of the advantages we had at Twitter was, so I was just going to say that one of the advantages we had at Twitter was that Twitter data is ephemeral. So, a week after somebody's tweeted something, it's not really as relevant. It's not private information. This data has real staying power.
And Chris, isn't part of the issue here probably a large percentage of the firms that were dealing in Facebook data back then don't exist anymore? I mean, remember RockYou or all of these viral video apps that were hot for a while back then, these quiz apps with weird names that we don't even remember. I mean, who knows who they sold that data to? I'm not even sure there are enough private investigators and forensic data analysts out there to track down the chain of what even happened to these companies, much less what happened to the data.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I remember at one time I looked at the 1,000 or so companies that were, ingesting Twitter data, and the vast majority of them were venture-backed companies. And we know venture-backed companies, 9 out of 10 fail. So those companies are gone, and we really don't know what's happened to the data.
That being the case, and though Mark Zuckerberg said he's happy to testify, he also made the case that it seemed like practically every other employee at Facebook is more qualified to testify before Congress than he is. So it sounds like he's going to be trying to send somebody else. How important, from a reputational perspective, do you think it is for it to be Mark Zuckerberg himself sitting there fielding questions from lawmakers?
First of all, I think Mark's right. There are people that are deeper in the weeds, and once Congress wants to get into the weeds, he won't be the best person. But I think it's critical that he stand up there and talk about, how Facebook has thought about user privacy in the past, what steps they've taken, and the broad strokes, and more important, what's going to be their North Star going forward? How are they going to think about and ensure building trust with users going forward?
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.